this black-green Aetherworks deck. We already saw it earlier with Tan and Gray's Team Next Ridge Nexus and Brad Carpenter both running it. The idea being that they're splitting the difference between an Aetherworks Marvel deck and a black-green deck. In a lot of ways, this is the matchup they wanted for the tournament.
They're taking advantage of the fact that green-black Delirium has become sort of the de facto best deck in the format just because it interacts so well against so many potential decks in the format, and putting in Aetherworks Marvel because it's advantaged against green-black Delirium.
Brad will attune on the first turn, setting himself up to 2 energy. Jeff, a cantrip of his own. His will be a Traverse the Ulfenvault. The advantage here is that this will play out like a mid-range mirror, except that Brad's deck will go so much bigger. Servant of the Conduit, the turn 2 play from Carpenter.
Carpenter playing beautiful unglued basic lands. Hoogland as well.
Grim Flare from Jeff. He has a 2/2 of his own. Can Brad power out something like a turn 3 Marvel? We will see. Answer is no. It is Evolving Wilds that he plays. And now Jeff goes to work. Liliana, the last hope. It will be the play, and immediately he's going to use that minus ability. Actually, a correction, no. He pluses on Servant and swings with Flare. Flare hits, and now it's a Flare trigger.
Right. The plus ability that minuses a creature's power and toughness.
Fair enough. Jeff puts 2 cards into the graveyard and 1 on top, both Murder and Ishkana Graph Widow into the graveyard. That brings up to 3 card types as he passes back to Brad Carpenter. So 1 more card type, and he will have Flare up to a 4/4. And for Brad, it looks like he is long on mana sources, plays Evolving Wilds, and passes. Looks like he has Emrakul and may not have another spell.
Yeah, he's stuck at 4 energy and 0 Aetherworks Marvel. Things really aren't working out for him here.
Liliana will plus. Grim Flare will swing. This is going to work again. Brad will crack the Evolving Wilds. I actually was somewhat curious to see him crack Evolving Wilds. If he keeps it in play, I suppose it represents a possible X6th energy, 5th or 6th one.
Likely he's just building up to a situation. He wants to start casting things like Ishkana.
Sure.
Send the deck that very small percentage, not super relevant, but
Jeff adds enchantment and land to the graveyard, so more than enough land types as he puts a 2nd Grim Flare into play.
And Brad just draws another copy of Emrakul.
So he's up to 3 now?
Yeah, he's got some air in his hand.
The issue is it's not even just if you draw 3 Emrakuls, then Marvel stops being a good top deck.
Yeah, that's also definitely true.
Ugh.
And this is one thing when you look at black-green Aetherworks versus green-red Aetherworks, or even the Teamer version, there's no Glassblower's Puzzle Knot, there's no Cathartic Reunion. He's really just crutching on Vessel of Nascency as his way to find more Marvel.
Yeah, swing for 8 from Hoogland puts Carpenter down to 8. You know, we saw some of this in Tan and Grace's deck as well. He had a sideboarded game against Teamer Aetherworks where he played a lot of discard, but then just floundered. And this game's going to go over to Hoogland. I am wondering, I like the innovative take on Black-Green Aetherworks, but I think after this game, I'm starting to question if this works.
If you're not convincingly winning this matchup, I'm not really sure why this is the innovation that you would bring for this weekend.
Yeah, the loss of Puzzle Knot and Cathartic Reunion is hurting them. Well, we're going to go ahead and look at the sideboard. I mean, this is a matchup. This has got to be the matchup that Brad wants. So 2 Natural State, 1 Kalidas, 1 Worldbreaker, 1 To the Slaughter, a Pick the Brain, 2 Flaying Tendrils, 3 Transgress the Mind, 3 Tireless Tracker, and a single Lost Legacy. So
what Carpenter is going to want to do is try to make Hoogland sideboarding as ineffective as possible. He wants to compound the fact that he's playing this honest game of Magic that also has a sort of combo finish. So the Tireless Trackers are going to be the most significant card in that respect. Those are likely coming in. I imagine that Transgress the Mind is just one of the better cards in this green-black mirror matchup. A lot of the important cards are going to be the higher mana cards, Ishkana Graph Widow, Emrakul the Promised End. Those are going to be the biggest finds here. You're not really going to know how many Emrakul Jeff is on, so I don't know if you necessarily want Lost Legacy, but it is another option that Carpenter has at his disposal here. So on looking at Jeff Hoogland's sideboard, he's got an Appetite for the Unnatural, 3 Deadweights, an Emrakul the Promised End, a Kalidas Trader of Gut, 3 Natural States, a Nissa Vital Force,
2 Pick the Brain, and 3 Transgress the Mind.
Well, the biggest find here are going to be these discard spells, the Pick the Brain, the Transgress the Mind. They're both good against the honest spells that Brad's trying to cast, and they also all catch the Aetherworks Marble. I'm not huge on appetite for the unnatural against the Aetherworks Marble. If you're able to get it when Brad doesn't have 6 energy and he just runs out a naked Marble, it's fine. There's a good argument for bringing that in, but it's not the most exciting thing.
Yeah, a lot of times he doesn't cast it until he already has 6 energy, in which case artifact removal is kind of not great.
And the Emrakul and Jeff's sideboard, you really want that for the black-green mirror. I assume that the fact that Carpenter's on Aetherworks doesn't really change that equation at all.
Well, remember, this is our last open here, or single open weekend here of 2016. We have the Invitational coming up in 2 weeks. Then we break for the holidays. We do the Players' Championship, and we come back in 2017. And new in 2017 is going to be, actually starting in 2 weeks, it's going to be the Infinite Challenge Package. So this is new to the tour starting this year. It is going to be, so the 2-day package, if you buy this, includes entry to all challenge events all weekend long, and one of the off-format exclusive playmats. So what that means, we will be running challenge events all weekend in all formats. These are all, so it's free entry into all of the side events that are not the Open or the Classics. You get these, and it is at one flat price for as many as you want to play during the weekend. We have the same thing available at Invitational weekends. It's $100 for a 3-day pass, so for only $20 more, you get a whole nother day's worth of Magic, and that's starting 2 weeks from now in Atlanta. So we'll have more of these each weekend, and once again, we have one in each of the formats, Modern, Legacy, and Standard, in each weekend.
If what you want to do is fill your weekend with as much Magic as possible, maybe you're not interested in the competitive nature of the large event, this is a great deal. You can just sit there, you can play as much Magic as you want. It's excellent.
So we're running this on Atlanta in 2 weeks, and you want to find out more, it's starcitygames.com/schedule. We'll give you the details for a specific open weekend. So game number 2, we talked about how for Jeff, it's going to be a battle of technical play this weekend. That last game, I feel like Brad didn't put him to the test at all. His deck didn't do anything. Jeff played well. Jeff played fine. He played well. 2 Grim Flayers, and Brad didn't put up a fight.
Yeah. Brad cast 2 mana 2/2s, and that was about all he did.
Well, for Jeff Hoogland, the number 2 player from Bloomington, Illinois, he has 15 open top 8s. He's actually still looking for his first trophy here on the SCG Tour. But 15 top 8's a huge number, an invitational top 8. He's been the number 1 player for most of the year. Tom Ross passing, had really, I talked to Jeff at the Season 2 Invitational, which Tom Ross top 8, and Jeff said, the pressure's going to be on now. Tom's going to try to catch me. Tom's a great player. I hope I can keep him at bay. And he did it for most of the season. It took just last week for Tom to pass him.
And the only tournaments left for that race, there's this event, and then there's the Invitational in Atlanta. We have Jeff here battling. He's up a game. He could be going to 4-0 here potentially, off to a good start, though there's few players more dangerous at an Invitational than Tom Ross.
Yeah, I mean, even if Jeff takes the lead this weekend, which, a top 4 finish would be huge, yes, he still has to do better than Tom Ross at the Invitational to keep it.
Tom Ross has more Invitational wins than Jeff has Invitational top 8s. And another 2 top 8s on top of that, I believe.
That sounds about right. Tom has just one of the most storied Invitational players. He crushes it at those events.
And Opens, as he's
he has been great
our
this
most
year.
recent Modern Open champion, back-to-back Standard wins this year as well.
I mean, what's impressive with Jeff's consistency is that he is the number 2 player on the tour this year without a single tournament win. I mean, that especially with how the point structure works, it's in a lot of ways that's a harder achievement.
True.
Tom has won 3 events. So if it's like for every event that Tom wins, that's 3 top 16s from Jeff. So Brad Carpenter kept on 5 on the play. He does have a turn 2 Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Brings him up to 4 energy.
Yeah, if this game is just land Puzzle Knot, land Crack Puzzle Knot, land Aetherworks Marble.
Great.
That's all he needs.
Brad's turn 3 plays at an Evolving Wilds and a second Puzzle Knot. He goes up to 7 energy. Hoogland will sacrifice his Vessel of Nascency.
Yeah, and Jeff didn't present a Transgress Mind on turn 2. That doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have one. Theoretically, he could have that and be waiting to see Brad's third extra draw step here. Could also just have Pick the Brain. So there's pressure on here both for Brad to have Marvel on this coming turn and for Jeff to maybe have a discard spell here.
Pick the Brain would be huge. He did hit Delirium off of that Vessel. He has Enchantment, Creature, Sorcery, Land now.
His hand looks to have many lands in it.
And yeah, that's going to be Pick the Brain, a huge play here from Hoogland. He does have Delirium, and you see Noxious Gearhulk and another Puzzle Knot. So Brad should be happy that Jeff did not get either Aetherworks Marvel
or
Emrakul. Now, the issue is there's not a good top deck for Carpenter. He would need to top deck both the Marvel and the 4th land.
Right. Jeff has not presented any threats just yet. Carpenter has a little bit of time, but he needs to get something going because he is up to just nothing.
3 Woodweaver's Puzzle Knots. Turns out only life gain doesn't do much.
This is not even a good limited start.
I mean, I've had some decks where this would be really good in, but those decks are very good. All it takes is, one Whirler Virtuoso, and his hands are really great.
True. Going to be difficult for Brad to produce one of those, both in terms of mana requirements and because it's not in his deck.
It's not really the right colors. Servant of the Conduit, the draw from Carpenter.
It's fine.
Like drawing a land. He'll cast it, go up to 9 energy, pass the turn.
Jeff probably not sitting on too many removal spells in his deck at this point.
Mind Rack Demon will be the play. Top 4 into the graveyard, gets Pilgrim's Eye, Grim Flayer. So now he has land, artifact, creature, sorcery, enchantment. Tap land from Carpenter. We go back to Hoogland. He is hoping that Carpenter does not top deck an Aetherworks Marvel. If I remember, at 29, he has played 3 Puzzle Knots. Mm-hmm. Jeff's going to grapple. We'll add instant to the graveyard for him. He sees can get any of these cards back. Tireless Tracker is also added. I suppose if damage is what he's interested in, maybe he just wants Grimflayer.
Yeah, Grimflayer would also help him dig towards either finding or helping to cast in an Emrakul, which is his fastest clock if he's able to produce that.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do.
He really just wants to get off to the races here.
Casts it, plays Hissing Quagmire, attacks for 4. So 5 lands in play, 5 card types in the yard for Jeff. The count for Emrakul is up to 10. He needs 3 more. Carpenter will cast another Servant of the Conduit, up to 14 energy.
Mana left over with the other Servant plus those 2 lands to start cracking the Puzzle Knots.
Dead weight on a Servant. Jeff will activate Hissing Quagmire. So Brad will block the land, spend an energy to crack Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, bringing him now up to 16 energy. But Jeff connects with Grimflayer, which means he'll get a trigger. And 3 more. We see 2 lands and a spell. Jeff will keep some of these on top. Replays the land. He lost one off Hissing Quagmire. And Brad draws the Marvel. And now immediately taps it. Top 6 cards, gets 1 for free. Does he hit Emrakul? I don't believe so, but he does hit another Aetherworks Marvel, so he can just spin it again if he wants.
All right, yeah, that'll get him 2 energy back. That'll put him up to 2
12.
full activations.
When you have this many Puzzle Knots, oh, the things you can do. So he misses, but here's another Marvel. Pay 6 more energy. Here we go again. 6 more cards. We see Tireless Tracker, Ishkana, Attune, Servant, no Emrakul, but this time he does have the Graph Widow.
Ishkana's solid.
He will go ahead and cast her for free. Does he have Delirium is the question. He's got Artifact, Sorcery, Creature, and Land. So he's got all 4. Here's the Graph Widow.
Okay. Now this would actually be a pretty good window for Jeff to have appetite for the unnatural, as Brad is still sitting on Marvel plus 6 energy.
Okay, he actually did not have Delirium. There's no... So, just the 3/5. And a swing from Jeff. Brad will take damage. He's blocking Grim Flayer so that it doesn't get through. Jeff casts Transgress for nothing?
He doesn't want to get Emerald and have to transgress himself.
Okay. Brad draws. He'll spend the last 6 energy of Aetherworks Marvel. And now there's an Emrakul in the top 6. Brad's going to go ahead and cast her in the 13-13. The promised end has arrived. And look at this, Brad, because of all these puzzle knots, is actually still at 14. It feels like Jeff's just been hammering him with creatures each turn. And yet it doesn't matter. So now we go back. Jeff's turn played by Brad Carpenter. And this is why Jeff played the Transgress. Now we see it. There was an Emrakul in his hand, and he wanted to keep it.
And that Emrakul is significant. That's really the best way for these Delirium decks to deal with opposing Emrakuls.
So what looks like Brad's going to try to do is he's going to try to shut Jeff down on mana. So he activates Hissing Quagmire. Presumably what he is going to do is he's going to trade it with his Ishkana.
Yeah, the 3/5 Spider doesn't really matter too terribly much, and he just wants to put Jeff off of casting his own Emrakul.
Yeah, or I guess he could trade it with his own Hissing Quagmire.
He does have Emrakul as his card in hand. It's probably not where this game is going, but if he's able to cast that, he doesn't really want to stunt his mana. He does only have 4 lands in play. That's actually Blooming March. He does not have his own Quagmire.
Ah, okay.
I don't think he would be going for that even if he had it, though.
So a swing for 4 will put Brad down to 10. He actually did this on purpose because he wants to mess up Jeff's next draw.
Yeah, let Jeff have some of these Transgress the Mines, this land.
Yeah, it was Traverse, a land, and Transgress. And Brad, and this is neat, he says put the Traverse in the graveyard, and then the other 2 cards, he doesn't tell Jeff what order he's putting them back in.
I think Jeff will figure it out in a
out?
second
Okay.
here.
All right. I just like that. So Grimflayer hits Brad down to 10. The Quagmire traded with Ishkana, and the Mandarak Demon was blocked by Emrakul. So Jeff has to play a tap land, plays Grimflayer, and passes. Now Brad gets another turn. He's going to crack a puzzle knot, go to 13, go back up to 5 energy. Aetherworks Marvel is not done.
Not to mention that Jeff's on a 2-turn clock now that Brad is on tap with the Emrakul.
Yeah, Vessel of Nascency, the draw for Carpenter. He's going to go ahead and cast. And sacrifice it. That brings him up to 6 energy, so he can Marvel again if he needs to. Looks at top 4 rather, finds an Aether Hub. Plays it for 1 more, up to 7 energy.
I imagine we'll see an attack and Brad sit on the activation of Marvel for a little bit here.
And there's the swing, Hoogland down to 13. And it's a pass. We go back over to Jeff. 6 lands in play. 7th land, 6 card types in graveyard. He has his own Emrakul. Will Carpenter Marvel in response? Maybe he does it after. We will see. I assume he does something with the Marvel. He doesn't want Jeff to be able to use it. So Jeff passes. No attacks from the Grimflayers. And so Carpenter will spend the Aetherworks Marvel.
Now, Brad gave Jeff land Transgress.
You could have tried to Marvel for Transgress in Jeff's upkeep. And you see there's a Marvel under these cards for Brad.
Yeah, but Brad left that land on top, which was the final mana source that Jeff needed to make his Emrakul.
Yeah, punished some here for that. We're still on Jeff's end step. Brad's choosing what he wants off Aetherworks Marvel. Next turn coming up is going to be Brad's turn played by Jeff. So he'll play the Attune with Aether. That was off Aetherworks Marvel. Brings him up to 3 energy, gets a Forest. or make that a swamp.
And Jeff will be able to use this Emrakul to eat Brad's Emrakul. Shouldn't be too much else that he can screw up for Brad here, of course, because Brad doesn't have a lot else going on. He can crack Puzzle Knot and spin that Marvel there.
Transgress the draw from Brad. That's a great draw if you're a fan of Hoogland's. He can have Brad transgress himself.
He has enough mana to transgress away the Emrakul and crack the Puzzle Knot to spin away all of the Marvel energy. Yeah, this looks like this might be Jeff's game here, actually.
Yeah, transgress was not the card that Brad wanted to see drawn that turn. So Hoogland is going to sacrifice Puzzle Knot. That brings him up to 7 energy.
Yep. And he'll be able to spend the extra energy using Aether Hub as well.
Yep, so here's the Aetherworks Marvel, top 6 cards. Lost Legacy. Now this is an interesting one.
If Jeff has some bad spell in his hand, he does have Transgress the Mind, so he can just use this as a redraw.
Well, he can. It's target player, not opponent, so he can have Brad Lost Legacy his own Emrakuls away.
Given that he already has Transgress and he can get rid of Emrakul, I suppose Lost Legacy deals with any potential Emrakul. It looks like he kind of has this locked up.
Well, the danger would be if Brad does something like draws
4th Puzzle Knot.
Yeah, something like that. That might be the only card. So he's going to have Brad Lost Legacy himself, naming Emrakul the Promised End. So he's going to get the other ones. This will have Brad draw a card. There was one in his hand.
May as well spend the energy and cast a Transgress. It's not an additional card type in Brad's graveyard or anything. He already
about
has
to draw a
sorcery.
card. Maybe he even
He
draws
could hit
something.
Yeah. All right, there it is. Can hit that Tireless Tracker.
Emrakul's trade. Brad gets an energy. He's up to 2. He's going to go ahead and transgress away his own Tireless Tracker. Now Brad gets his own turn. 2 down to 1 energy, I believe.
And those Puzzle Knots there, they were only able to...
And Brad does, oh my gosh, Brad draws the 4th Puzzle Knot? We were talking about this was his out, and he hits.
Yeah, Jeff's, that Lost Legacy is certainly paying off here. Best Brad can really find is Ishkana.
Okay, so Jeff's going to traverse. He has Delirium, he can find... Well, we'll see. This was the draw that Jeff needed to avoid here.
Yeah, so in this game,
happen.
Brad's had his Emrakuls all exiled, and also his Noxious Gearhulks were picked the brain earlier in the game as well.
He really doesn't have much, does he?
No, he's looking for Ishkanas and Tireless Trackers, and that's really about all that he's up to.
So Jeff goes ahead and traverses for Noxious Gearhulk, then attacks for 8. And the damage will hit in. Jeff's going to get to look. You make 2 Grimflayer triggers here. Keeps the card on top. Bins 2. Does it again. Looks like Ruinous Path is the card he kept on top. Now, Gearhulk could blow up a Grimflayer if Jeff wanted to gain more life.
Yeah, and Aetherworks Marvel into Ishkana makes an attack, and Brad he's 1 land shy of an activation of the Ishkana, but that could be lethal very easily.
Well, he could draw it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he's only 1 land short.
So Gearhulk's a play from Jeff, and he is going to destroy his own Grimflayer. That puts him up to 11.
All right, I like that.
Carpenter will go to 14, up to 7 energy. End step, he will likely Marvel. Does he even have something left? Sure, Ishkana was in the top 6. So he'll play the Graphoto. It was the best card he could hit. Here's 3 spiders that come alongside it. rest of the cards on the bottom. Not out of the woods at all yet for Carpenter. Draw for turn. It's a copy of a tune. That's not going to get him high enough to do much.
He can't activate the Ishkana because it was a tune and not a land. It's not enough energy for him to start spinning the Marvel again.
Jeff, Ruinous Paths away the Ishkana. Carpenter up to 4 energy.
Paying full retail to awaken and make this forest a 4/4 as well.
Jeff swings with the 5/4 Menace and the 4/4 Grimflayer. That's 9 damage if Carpenter takes it. I want to say, I don't think there's a way that Carpenter can swing back for lethal to get Hoogland down from 11. What he will do is chump 2 spiders so that he can spin Marvel again. Denies Jeff the Scry, so 6 more energy from Brad Carpenter. Vessel, Ishkana. He hits.
Brad,
I don't know if he has anything else left to hit.
Brad killed the suspense by showing the 3rd card as he found it as Ishkana.
He does have an activation from the spider. Is this lethal? Hold on. He's got 5 spiders in play. He's got 6.
Yeah, he got the 7th mana source. Yeah.
No. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, Brad Carpenter. Yeah, he counts it up, and we're going to a game 3.
Wow.
And what was?
Okay, so after game 1, we were saying that maybe Marvel doesn't push this matchup enough, but that game 2, that was everything. It just
so he draws the 4th puzzle knot, then his Marvel has to hit Ishkana, and then it has to hit Ishkana again. He only had 2 in his deck. They couldn't, so it's not just he has to hit 1 each time. If both Ishkanas are in the same 6, that's also bad.
He also had to find Emrakul earlier in the game. He wouldn't have had this position if he didn't do that.
Just everything checks boxes for Brad Carpenter there.
All right.
That's ridiculous.
Was not expecting this game 3, but I'm excited that it's happening.
And I'm wondering, from Hoogland's side, well, I guess he's got to try to win rather quickly. I mean, was the last attack too much? If he only swings the Gear Hulk or something, perhaps.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know what he had as leftovers in his hand. I think he was empty at that point. And there was a way to cast the Path and also cast a creature spell. Or I think he had Hissing Quagmire he could have left back.
Yeah, I wonder if Jeff is going to wish he had that one back on the last turn. It's possible if it's a 2-turn swing, he can leave back in a blocker. Because one blocker... No, one blocker doesn't even do it, does it?
No,
it keeps him alive. It does, yeah.
Yeah, I believe one blocker was all he needed. Or it was a drain for 5. It was 9 total damage.
Yeah, one blocker. So maybe he can leave back Grimflayer, swing Gear Hulk, and then next turn swing Flayer, Gear Hulk, and Awakened Land. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we will see. We're on to game 3, though. Hoogland versus Brad Carpenter. So Brad on a mull to 5. His hand was just 3 lands and 2 puzzle knots.
A really, really marvelous draw from Brad after that mulligan.
Yeah, because he has to hit the Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. He has to... Oh, my. Brad Carpenter, this is his season. It may be Jeff's year, but it's Brad's season. For Brad Carpenter, the 24-year-old from St. Petersburg, Florida. 4 open top 8s and a win. I have to think all of these just have happened since the Season 2 Invitational. If not literally, just most of them.
Yeah, he's been having a great year. And a Taco Bell fan.
Yeah.
Man after my own heart.
Taco Bell is just, oh man, it is my guilty pleasure. It's horrible.
My own faintly beating, weak heart.
But what a comeback for Brad Carpenter. The Season 2 Invitational, he was one of the 2 8-0 players, himself and Eric Hawkins. He was the last undefeated player, I believe. At that point, he went into the modern rounds of the tournament at the end of the day needing a win in 4 rounds to top 8 the Invitational, and he didn't do it. And it was a heartbreaker for him. Lost 4 win-and-ins. And then comes back and has the best 2 months of his life in Magic and qualifies for the Players' Championship anyway.
Yeah, when you end up in a tournament like that, many players, and it's easy to do so, end up feeling discouraged. You miss that many win-and-ins, maybe you think about hanging it up. Other players, Brad Carpenter, they get hungry, and he is on a tear.
Really impressive stuff. I mean, I guess you look at it and you think of XOing the day one of the Envy. He's keeping good company. It's him and Brian Braun doing about 5 times. Jeff's going to go to 6 here. We're going to take a chance to tell you about our weekly sale. It's been going on all year over at StarCityGames.com. A different sale every week from our online store. So this week, we have had hundreds of different singles available at $5. You see ones here like Entreat, Ashiok, the Nightmare Weaver. There's a list of them, and you can find them over at the store at StarCityGames.com. But you're going to want to do it this weekend because starting at 10:59 a.m. Monday, that's Eastern time, we switch to next week's sale. So head on over. Check out the stuff we have.
Yeah, a lot of great things to pick up. If you're a Commander player, if you're building a cube, I'm finally putting the legwork into building Grixis cube physically. Ashiok and Chain Lightning, 2 fixtures of that cube.
So I assume there's lots of great combo cards in Grixis cube because that's right.
There's a few. You can cast Mind's Desire in that cube. That's
great.
For sure.
Great. All right, Jeff on 6. He has kept game number 3 is underway. Jeff starts on Swamp. It's a turn 1 Vessel of Nascency for Carpenter. And for Jeff, Grim Flayer. The aggressive start of Grim Flayer was really the game winner for Jeff game 1. Mm-hmm. Maybe he can do it again here.
Yeah, wants to get this Delirium online quickly and just apply as much pressure as possible. Looks like Jeff also has Pick the Brain in hand, so he can be hoping to get Delirium, knock Brad off of either his Aetherworks Marvels or his Emeralds.
He's going to get a Swamp off Traverse before attacking. This is smart. If he wants to rearrange the top 3 of his deck, he has to Traverse first. Mm-hmm. And now he'll swing with Grim Flayer. Now, something I've noticed with Jeff, multiple deadweights in his hand.
Yeah, he's trying to pick Brad's Servant of the Conduits. Because if Brad's able to just turn 2 Servant, turn 3 Aetherworks Marvel, he really gets ahead that way.
Either pick Servant of the Conduit or pick the Brain.
Right.
Top 3 cards from Jeff was I want to point out was a pretty big miss here. He had 3 basic forests. He binned them all.
Well, now he doesn't have to worry about drawing them, right?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I don't think that's how we want things to play out.
Right. Yeah, you would want at least a second card type if you're going to mill that many cards.
Aether Hub is the grab off of the Vessel of Nascency for Brad Carpenter. Untaps for his 3rd turn. Now picks up Servant of the Conduit on turn 3. You know, maybe a little bit of saving him from himself there. If he had it, he would have got, it would have gotten deadweighted.
Mm-hmm. Brad just fanned there, do his own copy of Pick the Brain as well, so he has a decision to make.
Yeah, interesting turn. He has Tireless Tracker, Pick the Brain. He's going to go with Tireless Tracker. And now go back to Hoogland. Another land. Tireless Tracker gets deadweighted. Here is the Grim Flayer again. Maybe a bit of a miscue there. If he'd picked the Brain, the Tracker wouldn't be dead. Oh, it would. It just would have taken 2 deadweights.
Right.
Top 3 cards from Hoogland, we see a copy of Pilgrim's Eye. So that means there will be Delirium, because Jeff keeps something on top. He now has Enchantment, Land, Artifact, Creature, Sorcery, and Pick the Brain with Delirium will be the call. And a bit of a miss of a hand from Carpenter. He's got his own Pick the Brain, Ishkana, Servant of the Conduit, and 3 lands. And I feel like we're seeing a replay of game 1 where Brad's hand, his deck just isn't, without these cantrips afforded by these other colors, just isn't doing anything. Mm-hmm. Like, Brad doesn't have energy. He doesn't have Marvel. Like, what is he doing?
And as we saw from game 1, it was all about the top decks that Brad was able to produce. From here, he needs a lot of help from the top of his deck. It needs to both be a way to make... I suppose he just needs 3 more energy, right? Because he has the 2 Aether Hubs in hand already.
Well, look, if you're going to try to play a black-green deck, a mid-range strategy, then that's fine, but you're going to need some removal. Like, how different would this game be if Brad, say, Grasp of Darkness to the Grim Flayer? Then we'd be fine.
He does play 4 in his main deck. He obviously did not produce one there.
Right. I mean, but he could use another kill spell perhaps.
He is lighter on kill spells than the other builds, certainly. If you look at Jeff's with the dead weights, if he had a dead weight, that'd be excellent.
Which is just going to make him weaker in this kind of matchup. This Grimflayer, it's the fact that Grimflayer by itself is beating Carpenter right now. Here's Pick the Bane from Brad. Sees dead weight and the marsh. If Brad's hand was how it was, where it was just a bunch of reactive spells, go back to that decision to play Tireless Tracker over Pick the Brain here on turn 3.
Yeah, it was pretty aggressive here. If you're Brad, you might be thinking that Jeff doesn't necessarily have dead weight in his deck at this point, but he demonstrated that he did in game 2, right? Yeah, I have to imagine that I would have gone for the Pick the Brain. If I have Pick the Brain in my deck, I probably should be happy casting it on turn 3.
Well, then because the tracker would be alive, it would have gotten both dead weights. And a card like Tireless Tracker is exactly what Brad needs right now.
Right.
We'll go back to Hoogland. I mean, Hoogland doesn't need anything. Grimflayer swings in for 4 more.
Yeah, he just has a couple lands in hand, but the Grimflayer trigger should help him dig out of that.
Finds Traverse, Vessel. Options here for Hoogland to see what he wants to keep. All 3? Sure, he'll put all 3 on top. Play a tapped land.
In particular, if he's drawing Traverse, you're going to shuffle anyway.
Land from Carpenter. Plays Servant of the Conduit. He's up to 5 energy. I suppose this means, 3 Aether Hubs and a Servant. If he draws Aetherworks Marvel...
He has Evolving Wilds. He'd go right to 6 and be able to spin.
And as we saw in Game 2, Brad is very good at hitting those cards when he needs them.
A well-practiced skill.
And Jeff's just going to try to increase the clock. His draw for the turn was Traverse the Ulfenvault. He will Traverse for Ishkana, swing for 4 off the Flayer. That'll put Carpenter to 8. Top 3, 2 lands in Pilgrim's Eye. I don't know if Jeff wants any of those.
Throw those all in the garbage.
He's keeping a land on top, actually. Plays.
Oh, that does give him mana to activate Ishkana.
Right.
That does make sense.
Yeah, Ishkana makes spiders. Now is it Marvel? It is Puzzle Knot. It's not exactly an Aetherworks Marvel.
No. So I could put him to 14, facing a crack of 10 plus an activation. So he can put the Servant in the way of the Ishkana, then he just takes 11 in combat plus 4. It's looking like he's dead to me.
Well, you're kind of the life gain off Puzzle Knot. Is he dead through that?
Yeah, he only goes up to 14, right? Okay, never.
Yeah.
So he does. He can
maintain, chump block
right
through here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. Now if he blocks this way, he goes to 1.
Okay.
So he'll block the Ishkana, go to 14 and go to 11 energy. Even if he draws Marvel and Marvel's into Emrakul, I'm not sure he can win.
He doesn't really have a way to clean up this much stuff.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that Jeff can top deck that he can make him cast that really does too much about that either.
Yeah, there's no, just hard sweeper in the black deck. So, takes 7. Carpenter drops to 7. Jeff top 3s again. And this is the story of the game. This Grimflayer has hit every turn. Puts all 3 in the graveyard. Passes back to Carpenter. He's got 1 draw to work with. It's Aetherworks Marvel, okay. Right on time again for Brad. Not on time, but it's,
I'm going to make the argument for late.
But let's see what he can get. Is there anything that keeps him alive here?
Well, currently he's just dead to double Ishkana activation. Do it now, untap, do it again.
He need to hit Emrakul, take Jeff's turn, and I guess if Jeff draws a kill spell, well, let's step 1. Can he hit Emrakul? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. No, sir. That's going to be the match. Jeff Hoogland is going to win it 2-1, and number 2 defeats number 4. Jeff continuing to try to grab those points.
Okay, so Brad made an exciting show of it. After what we've seen on camera so far this weekend, I feel like I'd be happier just playing straight black-green Delirium.
Well, yeah, I want to go back on this. This should be a matchup that's good for Brad Carpenter. And